Do you take your coffee or tea hot or iced? It turns out that the temperature at which you prefer your coffee or tea or whatever actually has the capacity to impact your perceptions. And I'll get to that in a moment. But first, I want to talk a little bit about idiomatic expressions, these kind of verbal metaphors that we use. In the English language, we have a lot of these idiomatic expressions to convey feelings about someone or something in terms of temperature. So when you think of, like giving someone the cold shoulder, or the idea of warming up to an idea or warming up to someone or something, someone going hot and cold, even the saying it's colder than a witch's tit outside, which I really didn't want to say that, but my mind is like searching, I guess, for temperature metaphors now, and it came up with that one. And that one's interesting because there's some contrast in there. When we're talking about a witch's tit, that's supposed to be something that's warm and nurturing, and we're saying that it's not because she's a witch. Well, I'm a witch, so allow me to invite you to bend your mind around that one a little bit. Maybe you'll think of it differently from now on. But anyway, so, these idiomatic expressions, they're these verbal metaphors that are conveyed with just a few words, and they paint a visual picture. And the picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So the picture holds all that these few words represent. The picture holds all this subconscious information. Idiomatic expressions are subconsciously understood. That's why when you're learning a new language, you have to learn the idiomatic expressions of that culture, because they won't make sense. They're just subconscious. But it's interesting that we have all of these temperature related ones, because there is something kind of biological in that. In 2007, a guy named John Bargh at Yale University was doing some research based on the idea that, I guess psychologists have long known the correlation of warm physical contact between children and their caregivers, and then the children's ability to later have close relationships and healthy relationships as adults. So they wanted to kind of expand on those ideas, and he wanted to test the impact of literally touching warm and cold temperatures on the impact of perception. So he kind of divided people into two groups, and he had some people, he offered them iced coffee, and others he offered hot coffee, and then he had them go through some information about people and rate these people's personality traits. And the people who had warm coffee were more likely to rate the people as being warm and being generous, and the people who had iced coffee were more likely to rate these individuals as being more cold and closed off. And he did further research where he had people touching hot and cold stimulus, and it turned out that they were more generous and more trusting in situations where they were offering, if you do this, you touch this temperature, you get this gift card. You can either keep it for yourself or give it to a friend. And they were more likely to give it to a friend if they had touched something that was warm. So I think that's so fascinating. And another really cool finding in neuroscience that came later was the fact that we actually register our physical sensation of coldness in the same place in the brain where we register feelings of coldness. If someone is giving us the cold shoulder, those things happen in the same place in the brain. So I think that's so cool. So my first thought is like, how can I ritualize this, right? Because, the first thing I thought of is, before I go on a call with a person, like a client or a group, I'm leading a group hypnosis, I always make myself tea. So the first thing I thought of is that, I can just make that more of a ritual, and just know that as I'm making this tea, I'm gonna, I do it before the call anyway. It's a simple little ritual that I'm doing anyway. And now I can do it with the intention that this is gonna convey over I'm gesturing towards my laptop right now. This is going to convey over Zoom. People are going to pick up on this because people pick up on the feelings of trust or distrust in the brain within 0.07 seconds of coming into contact. And that happens over Zoom too. There's all these, we are hardwired to know whether we can trust someone or not based on little micro expressions on them. It's totally subconscious. So by me making that ritual and just imagining the feelings of goodwill and well-wishing for the people that, my intention to help them and, let them receive some kind of awesome epiphany during hypnosis, that intention is going to come through, and it's going to change the course of the call and our interactions and our dynamics. So that's one idea. Another is, and this was actually interesting. So I actually do prefer iced coffee most of the day. And it's actually, I don't know if that's actually true, because when I first got into coffee, I lived in Italy, and I was drinking cafe doppio. That's a double espresso. That's just what you do there. You get your little ceramic cup and you sit for a while and you just enjoy that really strong coffee, and it's nice and it's kind of meditative. And then I guess as I moved back to New York, I got a Bialetti. I made Americanos, and then I just started drinking more of it, and now I have a bigger coffee machine and I make big batches, and I have my iced coffee right here because I like to have a little steady stream of it during the day. But I think I'm gonna switch it up now. I think I'm gonna have I'm gonna make a smaller batch. So the first cup will be hot, and then I'll put the rest in the fridge and I'll have it over ice later. So there's that. But when I make my tea for my calls, that is going to be that ritual. That is going to be for the people that I'm working with. It's just another way of being there for people and having these deeper relationships. So another idea to ritualize this. And ritual is really just doing something with intention. And it doesn't have to be this elaborate thing. A ritual, brushing teeth is a ritual. And we can just say, what if you just have an affirmation? That makes it even more of a ritual. I listen to some binaural beats when I brush my teeth, and that's my ritual. So it doesn't add anything. It's just something you're doing anyway. So if you have someone come over and you offer them water, what if you offer to just make them tea? I think that's like such a cute little, and I'm sure lots of people still do this, but with this intention now, knowing that it fosters this deeper level of trust and generosity and openness and warm-heartedness, you can now offer to make someone a cup of tea. And it's just like such a little intimate act. You're showing them that you care for them. You're actually making them this thing. You're serving it to them. And I just think that's beautiful. So, ritualize your warm beverages. And when you're drinking iced ones, like I am right now, I don't know if you can hear the ice, but now I'm just gonna have the ice, hearing the little ice cubes clink. That's gonna be my reminder that, because our mind is more powerful than anything, right? So intention overrides any of this research. So, and there's a lot of research to show that too. Belief effects, that's what we call belief effects, which is kind of like the placebo effect, but it's more than that. It's what we believe is what we experience. So now that I know this research, I hear my ice cubes clinking. That's my reminder to, override the cold, open up my heart, and feel this feeling of trust and goodwill. Oh, one extra thing. This is funny. This is just a little correlation. There's no research here. I did a poll on Instagram asking people if they preferred hot or iced coffee. And it got a lot of responses. And 80% of the responses said hot, which didn't really surprise me. I think most people drink it hot. But I think it's cool because that's showing that feeling of trust and goodwill. And there is this thing in evolutionary biology called the default state of trust, which is our human drive to be trusting of others. We need other people. So it is hardwired into us to be trusting. And about 80% of the time, people are likely to be trusting. So it's a back and forth. Both parties need to have that 0.07 seconds of registering the trust. So when we do that, you know, we can just be aware that that there's this trust coming back and forth. But I thought it was cool that 80% of people in my little poll kind of lines up with the 80% of the trust, the default state of trust. So that's what I have for you today, and I hope it serves you well.